Hey folks, it's Phelan McPhalen over here. It's a Thursday afternoon, and I figured I would do something a little bit different today. I wanted to do a Random Thoughts Thursday, where I just share some random thoughts and observations. I was doing a podcast earlier on universalism, and I never got a chance to edit it, so it won't come out till later. Hopefully I won't have to edit this too much. I can just throw it on there, throw on the audio, and then leave. But yeah. I've been having some random thoughts, and I've been getting some random ideas. You know, I've noticed there's always a certain pattern that plays out whenever full preterism is attacked. If somebody takes it to the next level, there's always a pattern that plays out that I've seen played out again and again and again, almost without deviation, without fail. And that is that if the argument gets off on the wrong foot, the conversation goes down the drain almost immediately. Unless full preterism is approached a certain way, unless it is approached with a certain mindset, it's going to become very difficult to have a conversation, a fruitful conversation with full preterists. Now, you can have a conversation with full preterists on almost everything, but to make it a fruitful conversation, a constructive conversation, not just a, namby-pamby back and forth, that's going to take something a bit more. It's going to take a little more finesse, and it's going to take a little more, I almost want to say preparation, because you definitely want to be prepared whenever you confront a full preterist, or whenever you expose their view, you want to be prepared. I think Irenaeus is really the great example of preparedness. When he was battling Gnosticism, he wanted to find out everything he could about Gnosticism, and he did a really great job. He read all their books and read all their arguments, and then he came out with his magnum opus, that treatise, astounding display of mental acumen and spiritual insight against heresies, circa 182 or 180 AD. We want to kind of follow that pattern because, when I was back around 2004, when I was first getting into the ministry, first with the Independent Baptists and then later on with the Southern Baptists, I wanted to find out everything I could about preterism. When I started reading about preterism and I started having people challenge me with some arguments, I want to find out everything I could, so I studied. Eventually I ended up accepting preterism. That's a different story. I could get into that another podcast, but I wanted to be prepared, and I got prepared. And of course, once I left full preterism and started arguing against full preterism, it made me want to get even more prepared and start to really, deep dive into, church history and, apologetics and, the Greek language and all of that, which over the years I think I've become somewhat proficient in those departments. But you want to be prepared, and you also, something that I've just got to say here, and that everybody kind of knows intuitively or should know, but I really want to say this, and a lot of people aren't going to like to hear it, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I'm going to just be straight about it. The only way you're ever going to defeat full preterism, the only possibility you ever have of defeating full preterism is through exegesis. It's the only way, because you could come at them from a church history standpoint, say, well, there's 2,000 years of church history, and those are good arguments. You could take that deductive line of approach, which I've done many, many times, as sort of a backing, as sort of an undergirding for for any kind of exegetical discussion which may take place. It's good to have that sort of foundation. But ultimately, if you're going to defeat full preterism, you've got to do it exegetically, because they're going to ask you for exegesis. And what they're going to do is they're going to throw exegesis at you, and you have to come back with some kind of exegesis, because if you don't, then they've automatically won the discussion. And everybody who's watching the discussion knows that they've won the discussion, because you have not refuted their position. You have not confuted their position. You said nothing that has invalidated the points that they're putting forward. So you have to have some exegesis. Now, if you don't have exegesis, that's fine. And you can say, well, this group's a heresy, or this group's a heresy over here, this group's a heresy, but that didn't refute anybody. All that did was say, they don't believe like you do, and they don't believe like these people over here did, and they don't believe how the historic church has believed, but that didn't refute their position. So, from an apologetic standpoint, if someone's throwing exegesis at you, and you're not giving them exegesis in return, then at some point the conversation goes down the tubes, and it becomes a fruitless conversation. So I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for 15 years. I'm going to keep saying that because it's the truth. I've been doing this for 15 years from the outside looking in. And I know it. If you get off on the wrong foot and if you're not ready with that exegetical backing, you're going to lose the discussion. You're going to lose the debate. So full preterists, they're going to take that and they're going to take anything that you don't say, anything that you refuse to say, any questions that you refuse to answer, they're going to use against you. So there's folks right now who say, well, we shouldn't, and they're taking more presuppositional approach. There's folks right now who say, well, we should not even discuss Scripture with full preterists, which if you want to take that approach, that's fine, but that's not going to stop full preterism. That's not going to nip full preterism in the bud. That's not going to have any effect on full preterism. All it's going to do is show, well, you put yourself in a box, and they're going to keep on moving forward. Another observation that I've arrived at over the past few weeks is that when we engage in apologetics, we have to be very, very restrained, and we can't, when we start feeling ourselves getting into the flesh, that's when we have to take a step back, because someone may give you an argument that makes you angry that you might not be able to answer right away. That's fine. That kind of stuff happens. What you don't want to do is let it get you flustered so that you're calling people names. Once you do that, that's another thing that drives the conversation down the drain, because we have to maintain a due decorum, and we have to maintain a due etiquette. You know, there's apologists out there that lie and cheat and, play underhanded tricks on their opponents, and those cases are documented. I'm not mentioning names, but that's the kind of thing that we want to avoid. Look, if you have to lie and cheat in order to gain your points, you probably don't have the truth to begin with. If you have to engage in underhanded tactics, then it probably puts you on the wrong side, on the losing side of the battle. We want to make sure that we don't find ourselves getting into that fleshly sort of mentality where now we're no longer waging warfare in the Spirit with the sword of the Spirit and with the armor that the Lord's given us. And we start to wage war with fleshly means, with fleshly methods of argumentation and with fleshly approaches. We may win some battles here and there, but we're never going to win the big battle, and we're never going to defeat full preterism finally. Not to say that full preterism will ever be extirpated in a complete sense. We don't know that. It may be around for a long time. It may gain ground. We don't know. But what we're trying to do is we have today to deal with, and that's what we're trying to do. We're working for today so that we can have a better tomorrow, but we're not maybe given 3 weeks in advance. We don't know that yet. So, we have to take our battles on a daily basis. The only way you're going to really win at the end of the day is if you come with an exegetical approach, and if you come with a due sense of decorum, and then things are going to work out. Now, I've been on both sides of the fence as far as, name calling and stuff. I've lost my cool a few times, and I've had to go ahead and delete posts and apologize to the person. And that's something that most of the time I'll catch myself before that happens, but I've had that happen a few times. But, we shouldn't really call people names. It's on both sides. I've heard names being called. That's something that we want to keep away from. And we also want to make sure we provide exegesis. I tell my friend Paul, I tell him all the time, and he kind of gets mad at me, but I tell him, the one thing partial preterism needs more than anything else is a sound exegesis against full preterism. And he's provided, he structures everything anyways. So I think he's got a very sound, structured way, partial preterism. But look, we need to do better in the exegesis department. I've felt that for many, many years, and I've said that openly, and I've been honest about it. We need to be better in the exegesis department. I would like to see more exegesis, more exegetical debates between full preterists and non-full preterists. I'd like to see that. I would really like to see that. And if that happens, that's going to be good. That's going to be better for everybody, because people that are on the sidelines, they may be undecided. They may be thinking, well, hey, maybe full preterism is right. Maybe full preterism is the truth. Unless they have exegesis that can steer them away from that, then they may end up falling into full preterism. So consider that as well. There's a lot of factors to look at, and there's a lot of factors that we need to consider, but that's certainly important. The people who haven't decided, who are on the fence, whose minds are not yet made up, we need to convince them too. So anyways, didn't want to beat a dead horse. Didn't want to take up too much of your time, but I figured I would make that my discussion for today, Random Thoughts Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for your thoughts, your comments, your observations, and your input. Really do appreciate it. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.